All right, and welcome to another surprise episode of the Comics Brew 2 podcast. It's not a surprise to us, it's just a surprise that we started recording because Tom gave me a heads up. So today we are not talking about a book. We already talked about two books today, which you can find on our last two episodes, Batman White Knight and Batman The Court of Owls. Right now we're just going to talk about, like, stuff.
Something other than Batman.
Something other than Batman.
Miranda's favorite.
Yeah. I think that's the only reason she agreed to stay around, other than the fact that I gave her alcohol. She can't drive currently. We're going to talk about stuff other than Batman, and on my phone I have a picture of the list that I put in our group chat that I lost a couple of days ago. So we have like 4 brief topics just to discuss.
Yeah.
Because they're all comic book related and something that we all might have some sort of a form of interest and or having had dealings with. So, is there any topic that you guys want to start with?
Not really.
This is your podcast, Fred.
According to the group chat, it's Amanda's podcast.
This is your podcast, Fred.
So, I mean, if you guys want, we can get like the smaller topics out of the way and then bring on like the the larger discussions for afterwards.
Sure, because I forget what the topics are.
Yeah. I did too.
I was gonna say, as a brief rundown for everybody listening, if you guys have any interest in this, we're gonna talk about. There's a new comic book coming out of DC / Vertigo. I forgot the name of it, but there's been some controversy because people, mostly religious zealots, kind of want to shut it down because of its the content it entails. We're going to talk about Dead Rabbit, a book from Image, being canceled, are currently on a permanent hiatus over copyright infringement laws and it being sued. The state of Marvel Netflix and or the fact that there is none, and then just an overall discussion about the topic of anime, because there's something that I kind of want to do as a project with everybody in the future that is anime related. But before we do that, just get a baseline on everybody's feel for the genre or medium, if you will. So to start with, like I said, I can't remember the name of the book, but there's a...
Second Coming.
The Second Coming?
Yep.
There's a book called Second Coming coming out of the Warner Brothers facilitated DC / Vertigo line that involves Christ coming back and becoming friends with or roommates with a superhero who's essentially a Superman-esque character. After that announcement came out that they were making that book and that it was soon to be arriving on the shelves, a petition went around online on one of those, hey, we're going to do good for everybody and write an online petition and get stuff done, that they want to cancel the book based off the fact that it depicts Jesus.
Now, question.
Yes.
Vertigo stuff is technically set in the DC universe, isn't it?
Technically. But they do it separate because of, like, bylaws and, like, comics code bullshit.
But, I mean, so this comic is something that is, like, DC continuity.
It depends, because it either can or can't, like, is or isn't, depending on the writer. Like,
Okay.
the writer could say, oh, I definitely want this to be in continuity and make it so, kind of like Sandman is.
Yep.
Or just not.
Okay.
Like other books are. Like, kind of Lucifer isn't really set in the DC continuity.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so just in general, like, how do you guys feel about people deciding to, like, kind of self-censor the medium over the depiction of Jesus in a comic book, I guess?
I think it's silly.
Yeah. I mean, like, granted, people who are overly religious are always going to have their panties in an overly large bunch. But, like, it's just, like, the whole Bible is about this guy getting resurrected. Granted, it's, like, apples and oranges.
Right.
But, like, I'm pretty sure there's got to be some religious comic book company out there.
Probably.
Like, there's...
Yeah.
I want to see those books.
Yeah, they all show up on our cars at work in the parking lot when the crazy people pass them out.
Like Cheat Track, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Like, if they can do stuff like that, I'm sure there has to be some religious movie where it's like Jesus gets resurrected in modern day.
Probably.
And why is it okay for them to do it?
Because they're...
Sounds like a Kevin Smith movie.
Sounds like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be like Lifetime. Like, oh, here we go, perfect example. God friended me. Why aren't they upset with the idea of that?
I think... I just looked into it a little bit more, and I think he's presented as a sort of failure in this comic book in his second life, and I think that's where most of the controversy is
Jesus
coming
was a
from.
carpenter. He never even built a piece of furniture. What are they upset about?
My bigger thing is the lack of people being enraged by God friended me being just the single plot line coming out of Evan Almighty. No, I'm sorry, Bruce Almighty. The God friend to me is just the secondary plot to Bruce answering all the emails,
Yeah.
which is the actual travesty here. But
Oh, I feel like, excuse me talking like a pig. They're always going to get upset.
right,
And it's just something that maybe they should deal with. You know?
We all know how I feel about religious things, so.
do we?
Yeah, what is religion?
I'm not religious at all, actually.
Neither am I. But I think that might be our fault, like our failing here in not understanding the outrage. But like, I don't get the outrage as much there as I would over like, and I'm not justifying it at all. But there was that that attack on that newspaper in France because that one guy kept making political cartoons of the prophet, and like in their texts it says, like you can't depict the prophet at all. Not saying you should have gone in and destroyed it, like shot up a newspaper plant because those people were enacting their right, like their freedom of the press and stuff. But excuse me, like in this instance, like in the Bible, there's nothing that says you can't depict Jesus, like at all, or else like churches would be in trouble. But like nothing so far has come out and said that like they do Jesus wrong outside of hey maybe he presents himself as a failure or like hey maybe it's society that's the failure. Like the book's not even out yet. It's just the premise people don't like.
Yeah.
Which the interesting I saw online was less the reaction to the actual like the people's outrage or the people being outraged at all. Like the big takeaway I saw was like people were asking Sean Murphy, a longtime friend of the channel, aka a guy that we've read 2 of his books, and I will never stop hyping.
Possibly more.
Definitely more in the future because Joe the Barbarian would be something I think you guys would enjoy. But a lot of people online were asking him, "Hey, was there any pushback to punk rock Jesus?"
Yeah.
Because of that.
I'm gonna guess there was.
He said there was, but because of when he made it, as opposed to now, like the amount of like just influence that the online community has was different. Like there weren't like change.org petitions to get rid of punk rock Jesus. People were talking to him about it. But like, and it's true, but like the book's not canceled, but there is a group out there that is attempting to like squash this book from being made based off their values, which I'm not saying they're not entitled to those values, but like for a majority of human history, you've already killed the party. Like, why you got to keep doing it? Galileo couldn't do his shit. Plenty of people couldn't do their own shit because of you guys. Let one comic book come out.
Yeah, and it's like, would they? And they're like, you have to understand it's sacred to us and stuff like that. But it's like, would these same people care if, say, someone was making a comic about
the Norse god of thunder?
Or I mean, I don't think that's a religion that's as
Prominent.
closely followed nowadays. But like, say if there was a comic about like Muhammad, they would be like, oh, they're being crybabies, they're being overly sensitive. But it's like, you know, either side of the alley is gonna make the same argument. It's insensitive and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I don't know. As long as it's not like overly disrespectful to the ideas of the.
And usually when
religion.
that kind of stuff comes out, like, say, punk rock Jesus, like, you read that surface synopsis of it, and it sounds like it would be this infuriating thing, and it actually, like, handled it with a lot more respect than you would think.
Like, and obviously in the comic, there's the people, in Punk Rock Jesus, those people freak out for it. Like, oh, how, like, you know, how dare they, like, Jesus, and then the people... It's been a minute since I've read Punk Rock Jesus, but like there's outrage, and then the people actually end up trying to protect with the kid, right?
Yeah, they kind of accept him as the savior, and they end up trying to protect him.
And it's just, it's like the whole, I don't know. I think part of it, like maybe they shouldn't have done it, and at the same time, it's like people were going to be outraged either way.
Right.
But you know, you can't just censor something. That kills artistic liberties and stuff like that.
I've also read comics that were like, hey, these 2 gods are roommates, and like it's either usually done very well or like is done poorly, not because people are like, fuck religion, your religion sucks like that, it's more done poorly because like just poor writing and management
Yeah.
on that part. Whereas like if they actually do the time to like put in the research and like try to make these gods like as authentic as possible, because I've read like Hercules and like a couple of the Mediterranean gods. I'm trying to think of the word. Mesopotamian. I'm sorry. Those guys like Gilgamesh and stuff. Like I've read those like comics with those two.
Oh
And,
yeah,
like,
they did Gilgamesh as a comic character.
yeah, and Marvel. He's a comic character. Like
I forgot
granted,
about that.
those aren't like religions that are highly practiced anymore. But like they still put the time and effort into like researching to do those characters well. And like if they portray them right, it should be fine. And like they keep it kind of accurate. And like if you don't know who Jesus is, at least in the slightest, it's kind of your own undoing.
Hmm.
And like most people that make comics about religion come from it with some sort of angle to begin with, like having had dealt with that religion prior. So nothing says like these guys don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
But-
like I'm sure, like him being a failure, that just might be like everyone feels like a failure. It's like a common trait. It wouldn't be an interesting
Story
character
otherwise.
if the character was flawless.
Well, I mean, it could be if you just had him like walking around in modern society, but in modern society, he would realize that his teachings kind of aren't being practiced all the
I
time.
mean, if Jesus was really walked in a modern society, he'd be like, "Oh my fucking, I really screwed this up, man."
Oh my fucking me!
Yeah, he was like, "Oh my dad." he'd be disgusted. He'd be like, "Oh my god."
Those will probably be the jokes that they make in the book too, like "Oh my dad."
I mean, I might just check it out out of pure curiosity.
Right. Depending on when it comes out,
Yeah.
if we even notice by then, because a lot of these like fringe books just kind of go unnoticed upon release. Actually, this much coverage and controversy might be going against the people, like trying to squash it, and be more in the favor of the creators,
Yeah.
because like free publicity at this point. Like, hey, Second Coming's coming out. Which one's that? You know, the book that pissed off all like the Midwest,
Yeah.
like the Bible Belt.
The Bible Belt. The entire state of Mississippi.
Yeah, like the Bible Belt tightened a little bit. Like,
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see where it goes. I don't think they'll cancel it.
no, definitely not. Especially if like
Is it like an ongoing, or is it just like a 6-issue mini or something?
no idea. It's not even like it hasn't come out yet, so I can't even judge on what's going on. But I mean, if that's all we have to say on that one, to another comic book brouhaha that was going on. This is one that I pointed out that I have read. I've actually read up on this because I've read the book. I was going to my comic shop to pick up this series called Dead Rabbit. It's about a New Yorker living in like the general Boston area, and is a descendant from a gang called the Dead Rabbits Gang in New York. He becomes this thief / gangster / Punisher-esque character
Okay.
that goes around and does justice because he can. He deals out justice with his fist. He's this myth character kind of because like he's been in hiding for a while. He stole a bunch of money from the mob and then vanished. You meet up with him in retirement, coming out of retirement because of like John Wick-ish, like what's that other movie with Denzel Washington?
I don't know, man.
The Equalizer type stuff. 2 issues in, I go to my local comic book shop, and my comic book shop owner's like, "You're lucky. They're taking those off the shelf. They're recalling them." Because Image Comics, and by extension the creators, have been sued over copyright infringement.
Right.
Dead Rabbit is the name of a bar in New York. And is also attached to the mascot of that bar, the Dead Rabbit. Here's your issue with calling a bar in New York the Dead Rabbit and then naming your mascot the Dead Rabbit.
Now, I have a very loose understanding of copyright law,
Right.
but I thought, say, if you had a TV series called Dead Rabbit,
Right.
and someone else came up with something completely unrelated to entertainment media,
Right.
and they called it Dead Rabbit, that they could do that.
See, here's the thing. I don't actually know if this is a copyright, like if this law is like actually breaking the law or whatever.
Yeah.
All I know is that the bar is kind of pissy that these guys are calling themselves Dead Rabbit
Oh, yeah.
and is taking them to court over it. The Dead Rabbits was an Irish gang in New York, one of the most prominent gangs. There's a movie called The Gangs of New York.
Yep.
They appear in that as well. They're called the Dead Rabbits. This guy in the book claims to be a descendant of that gang, which makes him a dead rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. It literally ties in minimally to the actual story. I've read the first 2 issues. They're fucking fantastic. The first issue, he punches through a staircase banister, nails a guy in the ankle, drops him down the stairs. He takes the rest of the banister and beats him with it.
Okay. It's like done. It's not gonna be.
Oh, so far it's just on hiatus because of the.
You think they'll change the name?
They might. I don't know. The big thing is nobody knows when it's coming back out because of this.
Yeah.
Makes
I read
sense.
issue 2.
What are your thoughts on issue 2?
I loved issue 2.
Yeah, it's an Image book. It comes out like it's just totally creator owned. It is honestly one of like the most anticipated books coming out last year for me. That and Murder Falcon.
Murder Falcon?
Yes.
Okay.
Murder Falcon is the story of a guy whose wife dies, and he was in a band, and
And he murders falcons.
no, he stops playing music, but then these monsters start attacking the city, like these kaiju-esque monsters, like but on a smaller scale.
I'm in.
And Murder Falcon shows up. He's this bird man with a metallic right arm.
Okay.
And the more music this guy plays, the more heavy metal the dude plays, the more powerful Murder Falcon gets. And he fights the monsters. So they team up to fight the monsters around the city, and they're forming a band at the same time because the more band members there are, the more powerful and the more like of these Murder Falcon type characters that they have to rely on to fight the monsters. And the monsters are coming through a rift in reality caused by like the villain of the series.
So it's like Metalocalypse
Yeah.
meets Pacific Rim
Yeah,
meets I don't even know.
Rock Band.
Rock Band, sure.
and it's dope.
Sure.
But those were the 2 books I was most excited for. Murder Falcon, nobody's copyrighted yet, so they're good. But just the fact that this bar shut down a book based off of historical origins seems kind of ridiculous.
And so next on the docket is Marvel Netflix.
Marvel Netflix. Speaking
Is
of
this the
things,
last one?
no, after that's just the general anime
Do
discussion.
we need tissues right now?
Hmm?
Do we need tissues right now?
Not shoes right now, a little bit, yeah.
So, John, this was your topic.
All right. Why don't we save anime for another day,
Okay,
if you don't mind?
I don't.
Marvel Netflix. I was excited from day one. I've been following since day one. And I think I'm the only one in the room who's watched every season.
Yeah, it's true.
Every season.
Through better or worse.
For better or worse.
I got close.
Daredevil season 1, excellent. I was like, this is going to be great. I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Jones season 1.
Oh.
I didn't like it so much the first time. Loved it the second time around. It just something, the second time around is just better for me. Then we get to Luke Cage season.
Yeah,
1.
Daredevil season 2 is next.
Oh, right. Daredevil season 2. Frank Castle, incredible. The whole Punisher arc in that, incredible. The Elektra stuff, weak. Very weak. Very confusing. The Hand is just super boring.
Right.
The Hand's a very boring villain. Then we get to Luke Cage. Luke Cage's pretty good. Pretty solid.
Loved Luke Cage season 1.
And then we get to Iron Fist. The
Ugh.
biggest letdown. It was really bad. Really bad. And you know why? They use the Hand as the villain, which is super disappointing.
And then what did they do after that in the Defenders?
They use the Hand as the villain, and they wasted, what's her name?
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. And it's just like, my God. And there's this, it's just so disappointing. And then their Defenders end, and it's like, Daredevil dead. He sacrifices himself at the end. And everyone's like, oh, he's dead. And then you're like, the season 3 of Daredevil is coming out next year. And Shocker, not dead. So then we move on to, what was next?
Punisher.
No,
Punisher
Jessica
came right
Jones.
after.
Oh, Punisher. Fantastic. Really good. I think Punisher and Daredevil are the best out of the 2. And then they did Jess Jones season 2, which, yikes. There was a snafu with that one where they were like, we're just going to take all this comic history we have and we're just going to flush it down the drain and we're going to come up with our own storyline. And it was not good at all.
Painful.
It was messy. It was just disjointed. Like, things that set up, no payoff at all.
Who brings her mother back? Seriously,
Yeah,
that's one of
and
the
she's
points.
not even. It's not even interesting for her mother.
Ugh.
Like, her mother's just like this rage machine that's killing people, and then she's like, "Well, I just want to be with Jessica," and then you're like, "Okay, you don't have to kill people," and she's like, "Yeah, but I want to. I've got rage." And you're like, okay, cool. And it's just, it was so messy, man.
And then after
And
that...
it ends with,
Finish it.
Have you heard how it ends?
No, I haven't paid enough attention.
Patty domes Jessica's mom on a Ferris wheel.
Right. You said
Right in front of Jessica. So then you're like, okay, well,
Okay.
they're not going to be friends in season 2. or season 3, which is probably going to be the last of Marvel.
That's
Netflix.
probably because they haven't announced Punisher and Jessica's cancellation yet. Probably because Punisher just came out and
Punisher's
Jessica's
airing right
coming
now.
out.
Yeah.
They don't want to kill, anticipation for those shows straight off the bat.
Even though they kind of did because they canceled literally
Everything else.
Yeah.
They should have just waited and canceled it all in one breath.
What was the other one? And then they got
Iron Fist
Luke
season
Cage
2.
season 2, which
I haven't seen.
I didn't like too much, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, it was really good," so maybe I'll check it out again.
I loved season 1. I loved all of the culture and everything.
I
in
love
season
Luke
1.
Cage. Like him and I was so excited for him and Iron Fist because they were my 2 favorite defenders.
Wasn't he in an episode of Luke season 2?
Yeah, he shows up and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He's like, "Yo, what's up?" And like Finn Jones trying to like act smooth and cool with Mike Coulter, it just doesn't work. Like Mike Coulter pulls it off. He plays Luke Cage very well, very suave. And then Danny shows up and he's like, "Hey, yo, what's up, Luke? I got a fist that glows." And he's like, "Hey, what's going?" It's very just. It's bad. It's really bad.
So does Claire still show up and everything?
Claire shows up in a little. I think she shows up barely in season 2.
I was so sick and tired of her.
Well, I mean, I don't think she's coming back. No one's coming back. I don't think if they had done season 3 of Luke Cage, I don't think she would have been back.
Was it leading to a Jess Luke?
No, at the end of Luke Cage season 2, he's like almost Cottonmouth or what's her name? Not Mama Mabel.
Black Myra.
Yeah, he like takes over the club and he becomes like Harlem's like head honcho, like gangster guy. Like he's running that club. He's like dressed up like a fucking mob boss. And it's interesting, but I just didn't like the way that ends because I don't see that being the way the character goes. Because he kind of realizes like, in order to protect Harlem and stop all this infighting of all the gangs, he has to run it. Because he's like, who can kill Luke Cage?
Which is an original idea. Like every character that needs to stop crime decides at some point in time
To become the crime boss.
Yeah, like Daredevil becomes a kingpin at one point.
Yeah.
Spider-Man becomes a kingpin at one
And
point.
it's boring. It was to me, the whole Luke Cage season 2 is boring. The only interesting thing is, I will say, what was the villain's name?
I don't know. I haven't watched it.
It's a snake. He's got the Jamaican guy, Bushmaster.
Oh.
Bushmaster was really cool.
Oh, Bushmaster.
But yeah, I liked Bushmaster a lot. But aside from that, it was kind of lame. And then we get to Iron Fist season 2, which just drags.
Yeah, I've actually started that.
It's the whole like Steel Serpent story, but it's done really wrong. And Davos isn't overly interesting. He's just very eh.
Davos is a shit character.
The late Joey Meacham is just like, I'm mad at Danny. I don't know why I'm mad at Danny. I'm just mad at Danny. And you're like, why are you mad at Danny, Joey? And she's like, I'm mad at Danny because he didn't tell me my dad was alive.
That seems to be a recurring theme of parents
oh
not
my
being
God,
dead.
It was so bad. And then
So stupid.
season 2 ends with like a high note because season 2 wasn't terrible of Iron Fist. It ends really good, where he finds out there's another Iron Fist, Orson Randall,
Yeah.
Orson something, and that's like going back to the Fraction run, which we mentioned previously, which I really like. He was the Iron Fist before Danny, and he fought in World War I and II. And he, instead of infusing his fist with the chi, like Iron Fist does, he infists 2 Colt M1911s and kills people.
He can infuse whatever he wants
Oh,
with the
yeah,
chi.
but I mean, Orson Randall uses guns.
Yeah.
But in the show, like, it ends with Danny pulling out the 2 pistols, because he loses the Iron Fist. He gives it to Colleen Wing. I don't know why. He's just like, I don't want to be the Iron Fist anymore.
Have it.
Gives the Iron Fist... So he takes the Iron Fist back from Davos. Because Davos gets it. Becomes a Steel Serpent. Danny takes it back from Davos, gives it to Colleen, and Colleen gets a white Iron Fist. I don't know why. And I don't know. I'm disappointed in the cancellation. Instead of just going through a long, like, rerun. Very disappointed in the cancellation. Hopefully it can come... I know they said Disney Plus can't touch them until 2020.
Right. But
Which is only a year wait from now, so...
The fear with Disney getting them, though, is, like, Disney doing it wrong. Possibly.
Yeah, but I mean, Netflix wasn't doing it too good either.
Right.
There's less... I feel like if Disney has it, there's less push from the outside. Like, I think Marvel controlled the...
They may have.
Budget? I mean, Netflix controlled the budget?
Yeah, Marvel basically just licensed the characters out.
So if Netflix controlled the budget and everything else, like, obviously that led to some of the really bad CGI.
Yeah, and it also, the whole Netflix deal came about at a time when Marvel, their only TV at the time was like one season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And Netflix didn't really, like, Netflix was only just starting to get into making original content. So Marvel was looking to get TV stuff out there. Netflix was looking to acquire content. And at this point, Marvel has its footing down to the point where they're going to be good on Disney Plus, just running with their own characters, and they don't need to worry about a Netflix entity. And Netflix has so much content of their own now that they don't need, to fork over cash to Disney to have some kind of a Marvel thing going. They have their Stranger Things and their Haunting of Hill House and their this and their that, all under their own umbrella.
But I don't know, it's disappointing. Punisher Season 2 came out a week ago, and I really enjoyed it. John Bernthal was like, it's a shame if a lot of those actors go to waste.
Yeah.
Finn Jones, not so much. I don't know if he's just not good at acting or if it was just bad direction.
I liked him in Game of Thrones.
I mean,
it wasn't a very, hard character to play in Game of Thrones, but I liked him.
Kristen Ritter was the perfect Jess. So
she was really good as Jessica Jones. Mike Coulter as Luke Cage was great.
From what I understand, Jessica Season 3 is going to do a lot of course correcting, and I know Kristen Ritter is, personally directing some of it herself, But yeah, Jessica Season 2 is probably going to be the last piece of Marvel Netflix.
And they were setting stuff up, supposedly there was going to be a Daughters of the Dragon series with Colleen Wing and what's her name?
I just know for a
Misty
while...
Knight.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people were saying they wanted to bring My Boy Blade to Netflix, and I'm glad that didn't happen now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully, if Disney continues to pick it up, we can get some... we can get some more quality stuff. I'd love to see Punisher work with them.
Right.
He wasn't a part of Defenders. There was a lot of rumors he was going to hop in.
If they had done a Defenders Season 2, probably would have.
But
there's what, a 2-year hold on those characters now?
Yeah.
2020, from what I understand.
I think 2-year hold from the date of cancellation.
Which just sucks, man. Disney has enough money. Just buy them back, you sons of bitches.
Well, they own them, but it has to do with the contract they signed with Netflix. Yeah.
Just buy the contract out. I mean, I guess Netflix is going to want to let it sit there on the thing. And but are people really going to get Netflix to watch this stuff that's canceled at this point?
Buy the contract out and give us Coma Girl and the third Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But, I mean... Netflix, it's. I'd say give it a watch if you're really interested in the characters.
I couldn't keep up with all of it.
Major letdown is definitely Iron Fist, for me at least.
And Jessica Season 2.
And Jessica Season 2 is really bad.
I think the thing though is they talked about the fall off of people watching it. I think it's because there was such a hype for those first seasons, and then it's kind of the realization for people now that hey, Netflix is around, and now that they're making their own stuff, that stuff is always on.
The other thing, too, I think I went back and looked at some of the original announcement stuff, and from the announcement, they were not supposed to be multi-season shows.
Yeah.
It was 4 13-episode series, and then an 8-episode Defenders to cap it off. And that's all it was supposed to be. And then Daredevil was this big success, so they... immediately announced the second season, must have worked out some deal for that, and then off of Daredevil, they're like, let's introduce Punisher, and then give him his own show, and they just kept stacking more than they could chew, they kept biting off more than they could chew, and stacking on more content, and...
Yeah, I just want more Bernthal Punisher. Mm-hmm. Oh my god, he's so good as Punisher.
This thing, I think, they definitely did bite off more than they could chew, but, at the same time, all these companies seem to be in their own bubble of hey, we're making the thing that everybody wants to watch right now.
Yeah.
Not realizing that there's an entire industry of people making things that everybody wants to watch right now. With Marvel making movies, DC making movies, Marvel making TV series, DC making TV series, DC having their own streaming service, Disney owning a streaming service now to be released, that they'll put Marvel stuff on. That there's still Disney and Cartoon Network that both do their own individual stuff.
Don't forget
anyways,
Fox making Marvel movies.
for those properties. And then all the Fox and Sony movies, like.
I just mean the Fox stuff that's been such a resounding success.
But like there is like after they realized superhero movies could work, there's been nothing but an inundation of superhero properties into the viewing market.
Yeah.
And there's only so much time in a day to watch all that.
Yeah.
And then still enjoy everything you already enjoy to begin with. And that like word of mouth matters to people. Like the realm of public opinion is the critiques that matter now. Film critics, yeah, sure, they still got a job, but like your buddy posts on Facebook that like Iron Fist season 2 kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Why are you gonna go watch it if like all your friends are saying it sucked? Because like you were away that weekend, so you couldn't watch Netflix. And like, yeah, sure, you can watch it on your phone or your computer, but like some shit you just want to watch on your TV. Like I can watch anything I want on my phone or my laptop if I'm connected to Wi-Fi for my laptop.
Yeah. I mean,
Doesn't mean I'm gonna watch it.
if I had to recommend, I'd say just Daredevil.
Yeah.
Like season 2 is not great, but it's decent to sit through.
Yeah, it's easier to consume. 'Cause
Punisher. What I like about Punisher is Punisher really stands on its own.
it does.
Aside, the only recurring character in Punisher is Karen Page, and she makes very small appearances in both seasons.
The fact he doesn't sleep with Rosario Dawson's kind of amazing.
Who? Punisher?
Punisher.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, him and Iron Fist are the only ones who haven't, and
Right.
Jessica Jones.
Yet.
But yeah, we kind of just. Yeah, she's all over the place.
I guess,
There were rumors about her getting a series, right?
There were,
Night Nurse?
with her as Night Nurse, which there is also who Doctor Strange's girlfriend is, right?
Yeah.
from time to time.
How much I disliked her in the Marvel series completely just tainted Rent for me.
I just love when she shows up in season 2 with like ninjas, and you're like, what the fuck is she doing here?
I just like season 2 where Daredevil's fighting ninjas on the roof and Punisher just starts capping them all with a sniper rifle, and you're like,
Oh.
what the hell is
And
happening?
he's like calling him Red.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here for you, Red. God, just Bernthal's Punisher's the best casting in that. I will say Winston D'Onofrio's Kingpin's really good.
Oh, yeah.
too. But Kingpin kind of in the 3rd season of Daredevil, he just talks like this.
D'Onofrio is always just going to be the alien bug from Men in Black to me.
When I was a boy.
I've seen everybody making fun of that. I gotta watch it.
Yeah, I mean that's his whole thing is when I was a boy. Like,
Yeah.
Season 1 and 2, you're like, this is him, and then season 3, you're like, all right, the shtick's getting old. But like, I guess that's just the character.
But the fact that, like, in the first season, like, it always sticks out to me when, like, they get out of the car and Kingpin just beats the guy to death. And they film it out a way to make D'Onofrio look like real Kingpin size for
Yeah.
a second. I was like, okay.
I mean, each like I think some of the villains just shine better than most of the heroes, which sucks.
Yeah.
Like Kilgrave's interesting, Kingpin's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The Hand suck. We won't even get into the Hand.
Purple Man was cool.
Jigsaw in season 2 of Punisher
Yeah, I
is
gotta check that out.
interesting, and then so is his name is John Pilgrim, but he's based off of the Mennonite, who is like a preacher, like a religious extremist.
Right.
And in the series, he's a former neo-Nazi.
Very topical. Very Punisher. There's a couple of runs where he fights neo-Nazis or neo-hydras.
There's one point in Punisher season 2, spoilers, where John Pilgrim, one of the main antagonists, he gets called to a meeting, and it's his old like neo-Nazi buddies,
Yeah.
and they're like, "You don't get to leave. You don't get to leave. Like, you don't get to turn your backs on us." And then a bunch of neo-Nazis come in and try and beat him up, and he beats the shit out of all of them.
That's the one thing that a lot of those series had right, was the hallway scenes.
Oh yeah, it's
So
one of the
many hallway scenes.
Starting with Daredevil. Original Daredevil being the best one, where he just goes down the hallway to get the girl.
Yeah,
Because of how simplistic it was the one camera.
I really like the Daredevil season 2 one.
The one where the staircase?
He's got the chain, and he's like
Yeah.
whipping the lights, and he's beating guys up with the chains.
Oh, I was going to say my top 3 are Daredevil Season 1, Punisher in Daredevil Season 2, and then Daredevil Season 2, his hallway scene. Because when Bernthal gets the shiv and just goes to town on everybody in the prison,
Oh.
and they're all wearing white and orange, so you just see the blood splatter.
Yeah, it's so intense. He has a really good scene in Punisher season 2 where he fights a bunch of Russians in a gym, and they're just using the various gym equipment as like weapons, and it's really great.
Sounds like a callback to the Thomas Jane movie where they're in the apartment building and he's using whatever to beat him.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what it is. He just some points he just starts using whatever he can to kill people.
Oh, that just made me think of the short film, the unofficial short film they did where they got Thomas Jane back.
What,
with,
Dirty Laundry?
Yeah, with Ron Perlman and whatnot. That was really cool.
It's like the 5-minute clip, right?
Yeah, and then the same guy that produced that, he's the producer of Dread, also did a really sweet Venom short, unofficially, like that.
So when does Jess Jones season 3 come out?
There's no date yet, but it's probably soon, so they could just,
Probably
wipe their
March,
hands of
April.
everything.
Well, that's Marvel Netflix. Again, it's decent. I hope they continue it. I wouldn't mind a reboot, but the thing that sucks about a reboot is you'll probably lose
All the casting.
those casting, and that is unfortunate to me.
It's
I mean, I'd be fine if they... it'd be confusing if they brought back some and not others.
Right.
So it'd be wholesale or...
It's all or nothing.
just bring back the characters people like.
The most disappointing loss for me would definitely be Bernthal as Punisher. He just...
And
he
Cox,
nails it.
Cox's Daredevil for me was great.
Cox's Daredevil's great, but...
Here's what you gotta do. Bring back Cox's Daredevil. Bernthal as Punisher. Jess Jones, whoever plays her as Jess Jones, but she shows up in the Michael Coulter Iron Fist series. No, sorry, Luke Cage series. And they just work together as Alias Investigations.
Yeah.
And
I wanted Heroes for Hire, but we're never
Yeah,
getting that.
I'm honestly shocked they didn't wind up, they made the Netflix deal and didn't just do these characters as films. I feel like they could have done Daredevil just as his own film, Heroes for Hire as a film with Jessica as a supporting character in that, and then, depending on how that went, give her her own film afterwards.
I liked it as the series, though.
Yeah.
I felt there was a lot of character development that you just don't get in a series.
It's just funny.
A TV movie or movie.
Because for the Netflix series, you kind of had the same problem that you get with like some of the other TV series. People aren't fighting their own villains.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the villains that got passed around were either like Daredevil specific villains.
Like, they had to borrow Typhoid Mary from Daredevil for Iron Fist, and she was great.
Yeah. But just like a couple of people that get passed around through each of the seasons, like were mostly Daredevil villains.
Yeah.
That
Bullseye was great.
Yeah. I'm thinking of Jessica Jones season 1. Nuke. Nuke is a Daredevil villain.
Oh, and they set him up for season 2, and then he dies within the first 2 or 3 episodes of season 2.
Oh yeah, that's
I saw a clip from Jessica season 2 of some guy with super speed that looked like
That
worse,
was so bad.
worse
That
than
was
CW
so
Dare super
That's what
speed.
I didn't like about Jessica Jones season 2 is they introduced like more meta-humans, and you're like, oh wow, this is kind of not interesting.
right.
Because these are just like, what do you call himself? Blur?
I don't know. I saw that clip online a couple days ago, and I had to look and
really
see if
bad.
it was real.
It was really bad. It was almost like the budget was gone, and they were just like, just do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's our thoughts on a bunch of grab bag, a blind bag. I don't know,
Chewing the fat.
chewing the fat. An Elseworlds episode of the podcast,
If you will.
if you will. Well, stay tuned. You know what we have in store if you've listened to the other stuff. If you don't, there's more on the way. Batman and Marvel and some other stuff that's unrelated. Movies. Anytime a superhero movie comes out, with the exception of, I think, mostly DC stuff. Not that we're biased, it's just none of us have seen it.
Aquaman was really good.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's okay.
So, yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Check out our Instagram, comics_B and C. Or comics_band C, as I thought it was for a little bit. So, thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode.